Hi, Samantha Heuwagen back today with another video, this time about couples therapy, because as you know, I'm not just a sex therapist who just talks about sex all the live long day. I am also an individual couples and family therapist, which means I can see all kinds of people. And one of the things that I've noticed lately is a little bit of confusion in what it means to be a couples therapist and what that actually looks like in session. So let's begin. First comes first, there are two theories, prevalent theories in our realm that has been researched and used for, goodness, I want to say almost 3 decades, which is really impressive. That's Gottman Family Therapy, and that is EFT, Emotionally Focused Therapy, by Sue Johnson. And both are fabulous. I'm actually trained in both, surprisingly. And let me tell you a little bit about what makes them unique in their own right and why I do both instead of just picking one. Now, when I first started my career, I gravitated towards emotionally focused therapy, which is amazing and great if that's kind of how you present in the room. As I became a therapist, I realized I wasn't just like in the feels and lowering my voice to talk. No, that wasn't how I operate. But I did go to the first step, what do they call it? I forget what they call it, but the first step is going to a training that lasts for about a week and being immersed in how the theory works and getting to try it. I was a little turned off because every time I did it wrong. And anybody who I worked with was always like, "You're wrong." I don't believe that's how therapy or theory works, but okay, to each their own. So I was a little turned off by that. Now, that isn't to say that I don't use it in my room. It's actually a very, very powerful tool, and it gets really to the heart of vulnerability and emotions and all of that jazz, and it works. It's just not my thing, which is fine. It doesn't have to be my thing. So then I jumped over to Gottman, and that seems to be the thing that I am actually utilizing in my practice right now. So Gottman therapy focuses on, and this is like really simple stuff. I'm not going into anything. If you want to do more research, feel free to Google Gottman. They're amazing. It's a husband and wife team. They're awesome. So Gottman focus at the very basic level on friendship and building relationships and building the bond. And that is pretty much it. Now, the interventions are amazing. They talk about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, which is like the things that you look for in a relationship that you know are just not going to work, like name calling and disgust and things like that. Again, I can make another video on that at a later date, but this is just a brief overview. So those are the two main theories that a good couples therapist will, one, utilize or be aware of. Now, if you're like me, who's kind of trying to figure out what avenue, you might have somebody that has some experience in one and maybe training in the other. Right now, I'm just level 1 Gottman trained. I forget, they were very adamant that you can't say you were like a Gottman therapist. So I'm not saying that, I'm not claiming that, but I have definitely gotten through level 1. I will be taking level 2 in the near future as soon as they offer that in person where I live in Atlanta. But until then, level 1 it is, and that's super helpful for my work right now. So that's like the foundational work. When you're a client coming in to begin couples therapist, you'll notice a couple of things. First thing is that you will have a joint session. That means the 3 of you, or perhaps more, the therapist, your partner or partners, will come together for the first initial session just to fill each other out, just to make sure that you guys are a good match. And that means that you vibe, that you like the therapist, that the therapist is knowledgeable and curious where appropriate, and that you just have a good feeling about it. I think I've talked about that in another video, and I'll link that down below as well. So that's the first session. Then, if you can, the next week, preferably if you can, but you know, people are busy, the next week will be divided into individual sessions, which means that you'll come in by yourself without your partner or partners to meet with a therapist to talk about any secrets that are going on in the relationship. And secrets can be affairs that the other people or person doesn't know about, or it can be things that you've been hiding, like I'm thinking that I'm unhappy in my sex life, or I'm thinking that I'm unhappy, and whatever. It could be whatever the secret can be, but those are just a couple examples. So you'll go in, and then your partner at a later time will go in, the same thing will happen. They'll be able to talk about whatever they need to talk about in that particular moment. Then, so as we're doing the week 3 session, if you will, 3, I kind of count it like session 4. At least that's how I do it in my record keeping. I do like the intake, and then I do individual, and then I think I do label it as session 4. Some people can label it session 3. It just depends on like your preference. Anywho, so that was when like the work will actually begin. As a marriage and family therapist, I will usually begin with a genogram for the couple, just so I know the major players in their life. If it's more focused on sex therapy than just something else, then I will do like a definition kind of intervention where we define what commitment means, what sex means, what relationships mean. It just depends on what the presenting problem is, but that's how I like to work. And then from there, it's at the couples therapist discretion. So whatever the treatment plan that they come up with, they follow it in terms of that. So the one thing that you got to be aware of is that if there's any kind of abuse, it is at the therapist's discretion to say no. Now, if there's physical abuse, nobody moves forward with couples therapy to make sure everyone is safe. That means the partners involved are safe. They will refer clients to an individual therapist, both of them, or again, if there's more than one partner, then however many partners will all get their own individual therapist so they can work on their own issues. That's not to say you can't come back to couples therapy maybe in like 2+ months, just to make sure everything is good. That doesn't mean that you can't come back, but it does mean that the people involved are getting their own work to sort that out. Emotional, I don't know. That's same thing for me as a couples therapist. Emotional abuse needs to be talked about, needs to be handled, needs to be dealt with as like a team. And so what I mean is like you can still perhaps come in maybe at a later time for couples therapy, but you need to have your individual therapist as well. What else? Couples therapy can cover a wide variety of topics. Like I said, in my specialty, it's sex therapy focused, sometimes affairs or people interested in trying new sexual things. Other times it's just we're unhappy. What do we do? Do we want to get divorced? Do we want to stay together? What happens? Like, I don't answer that question for them. We just discover it together as a team, if you will. Then there are situations like, do we want to have a family? What does that look like? And sometimes that will roll into family therapy, just depends. But again, that's the role of a marriage and family therapist. We can decide and help clients figure out what the best course of action is. I actually love working with people who call me and they're like, hey, do I come for individual work or do I come for couples? What do you recommend? I do a lot more digging and a lot more questions, or ask a lot more questions, and then we figure out as a team again, even if they're not my personal client, what works best for them in their life. So I hope that clears up the mystery behind couples therapy. It's not just for people who are like, are we going to get divorced? Are we going to stay together? No, it can be for a lot of different stuff. I even like it when couples come in just for a fine tune, just to make sure that they're connected, and if they're going through a life transition like having children or children are leaving the nest, whatever, that's always fun to have people come in and work on themselves and kind of not recreate the bond because the bond's always there, but strengthen it, which is also awesome. All right, so again, I hope this was clear and I hope that you got something out of it. If you're thinking about couples work, definitely visit Psychology Today to find a therapist in your neck of the woods. Look for someone who has training or is trained in MFT, Gottman method, maybe even sex therapy, who knows? And if not, if you're in the Atlanta area, come say hi to me. I'd love to work with you and help you out. All right, comment below what you thought about couples therapy prior to this video or what you took away, and give it a like, subscribe to come back, down the road whenever I make another video, which again has been once a week, which I'm really proud of. But I will warn you that as the holiday season begins, I might take like a little hiatus and see you in the new year. I'll let you know. November for me is like crazy. It is crazy. I am traveling every weekend. If you want to see all of those crazy adventures, make sure you're following me on Instagram. I post every day and I love Insta stories. I'm a little obsessed. It's a problem, but yeah. All right, that's it for me. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you next time. Bye.